Let's have a big welcome for Mr. Joe Bingo. What do you say, huh?
Thank you very, very much. If I appeared tired to you tonight, it's for a reason. I just returned from Israel. I was over there getting enough money to keep New York alive. And before I left to come here tonight, my wife says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going down to the Brass Plotter and entertain the nice people." She says, "You're going to drive me to my grave." And I had the car out in 2 minutes. Yeah, you got to see my wife. She's 5'2". She weighs 327 pounds. Yeah, she takes her girdle off, her feet disappear. Yeah, you laugh. You don't know what I got to go through. The other day I bought her a waterbed. Now the only time she gets up is high tide. And she went down to the beauty parlor, 4 hours. 4 hours in a beauty parlor. That was just for an estimate. Yeah, she's always on a health kick. You know, she read a thing in the paper, Vic Tanny's guaranteed to take weight off. The very first week, 23 pounds, one of those machines ripped her leg off. And she's always on a diet, you know. Now she's taking a pill. It doesn't help her diet, but it paralyzes her mouth. She can't chew. And now the latest thing is mud packs. Every night she goes to bed with a pound of mud on her face. It's like sleeping next to a swamp. I asked her, I said, "What do you put all that crap all over your face for?" She said, "Well, it tightens everything up." I said, "Then how come you don't sit in it?" And everything today is relevant, even television. You know, television has a big effect on people. The other day I went into the den, I asked my wife, I said, "Honey, you suppose all the excitement's going out of our marriage?" She says, "We'll talk about it during the commercial." The other day my teenage kid, she come running home from school, she says, "Look, Dad, no cavities, but I'm pregnant." She says, "Our group didn't use anything." And the other day I went into the kitchen, I picked up my wife's hair and I kissed her on the back of the neck, and when she turned around it was my hippie son. Kid's got terminal acne. And his hippie friend was out on the patio all day long with his ear to the ground. And I thought the kid was dead. I went out there, I said, "What's the matter, son?" He said, "Shh, listen." It's like a jackass. I get down there on my hands and knees, I put my ear to the ground, I'm listening, and I said, "I don't hear anything." He said, "Yeah, man, it's been that way all day." And the other night I come home, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm smashed. So I come into the house and my watchdog, Boulevard, he doesn't bark at anybody but me. Me he barks at. Right away he starts going, "Meh, meh, 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 meh." And he woke up Godzilla. That's my wife. She says, "Who is that?" And I says, "It's only me. Go back to sleep." She says, "What time is it?" And I says, "It's only midnight. Go back to sleep." And just then the cuckoo clock sang out 3 times. And I had to stand there and cuckoo 9 more times. With the heat cups. And you know, everybody says a dog is a man's best friend. That's not true. A dog today is a status symbol. And the smaller the dog, the higher the prestige. We got a gal in our neighborhood that walks a leash, no dog. And the thing today is to have a foreign dog. like a German Dachshund, Irish Setter, English Bull. How many people here tonight have an American dog in their home? Yeah. I mean a real American dog, a coyote. Well, I'm not a dog lover myself, but my wife says, let's get a dog for the children. Now, I thought that was a fair trade. Did you ever go to a pet shop and you see all those cute little puppies in the window? They're not for sale. The ugly mongrels in the back, they're for sale. And a pet store wasn't good enough for my wife. She drugged me all the way up to Santa Barbara to a breeder, to a Mrs. Cocker. She looked like a cocker. She said, oh, you and your wife want to adopt a little fur baby, huh? And I said, no, lady, we just want a dog. She said, oh, you and your wife want to adopt a little doggy, huh? Why do you and your wife want to adopt a little doggy? I said, because my wife and I can't have any of our own. That's why. She said, would you like a dog with papers? And I said, no, lady, we got papers at home. She says, well, you look around. If you see something you like, call me. 3 hours. What do you think my wife picks up? A Schnauzer. A genuine German Schnauzer. And she fell in love with this dog. It took 4 days to find a name for it. Finally, she came to me. She says, I found a name for the dog. And I said, what is it? She said, Joe. I said, that's my name. She says, well, change your name. I said, what do you mean you'll change my name? She says, we'll call you Spot. Now that gets to be embarrassing, you know. A guy will call on the phone and say, hey, what's Joe doing? Oh, he's laying on the living room rug licking his fleas. And one night I come home, she says, Spot, something's the matter with Joe. I said, now what's the matter? She said, well, he chases cars. I said, all dogs chase cars. She said, when they're parked? So I took him to a specialist. Now this is really a fright. I went to the specialist's office and there was a monkey in there that was a dope addict. He had a man on his back. And they had this vicious looking bulldog going to have a big thing removed from his mouth that was a mailman. Then they had this ugly looking thing with fat jowls and sad eyes and long hair, and that was a specialist. So he examined the dog and he called us in. He said, Mr. and Mrs. Spot. He said, the reason your dog chases cars, he has an excess growth of hair in his ear. I said, so what do you do for a dog with hair in his ear? He said, well, I could charge you a lot of money. He said, but tonight when you go home, he says, you have your wife go down to the drugstore and buy an ordinary bottle of Nair, and that's it. So she went down to the drugstore. She said, I'll have an ordinary bottle of Nair. So the druggist says, have you ever used this before? She says, no. He says, well, if you're going to put it on your face, you know, you won't be able to wear makeup for 3 hours. She says, well, I'm not going to put it on my face. He said, oh, he says, well, if you're going to put it on your legs, you won't be able to wear a hose for 3 hours. She says, I'm not going to put it on my legs. He says, well, if you're not going to put it on your face and you're not going to put it on your legs, where are you going to put it? She says, well, if you must know, I'm going to use it on my Schnauzer. He says, oh, well, in that case, you won't be able to ride your Honda for 3 months.
Lombardo, party of 2.
I was introduced to that guy like one time, you know. It's like getting a kidney transplant from a bedwetter. This guy went to the doctor and he said, Doc, you gotta help me. He said, what's the matter, George? He said, well, it's my wife and I. He says, for 2 years we haven't had any sex relations at all. He says, oh, you're fighting. He says, no. He says, we're not fighting, we love each other. We don't feel like it, so we don't do it. He says, well, that's no problem. Tonight when you're having dinner, you take these pills and you put 2 in your wife's coffee. He said, but I got to caution you, they're really going to turn her on. They're potent. I said, okay. He went home, they're having dinner. They didn't even finish. He put 2 in his coffee. He hadn't had any for 2 years either. Right in the middle of dinner, she jumps up, she says, my God, I gotta have a man. And he jumped up and said, me too. Today, I want to say Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends in the audience. I don't know whether I got any Jewish friends, but they're all in the audience. And Happy Hanukkah. A lot of people don't know it, but this is the Jewish New Year of, it's 5734. It's also the Chinese New Year, 5521, which only goes approved for over 200 years. The Jews were without laundry. I just returned from a trip on up through the East Coast, and I don't give a damn where it is, if it's a railroad station or a hotel or a house or a motel or an inn or what. They all got the same sign. George Washington slept here. No wonder they call him the father of our country. But I can't knock him though. George Washington was one of us. He was a boozer. I mean, anybody can stand up in a rowboat in a raging river. It's got to be stoned, right? If you think that's great, think of that drunken artist in the rowboat next to him painting his pictures. And contrary to popular belief, Abraham Lincoln was not shot in a box. He was in the head. And Abraham Lincoln was the guy that said, 4 and some don't. Think about that. And then there's Cochise, the leader of the Indian nation. When he leaped on his horse and said, they ride bareback later. And there's Horace Greeley who said, go west, young man, go west. And all the young men went west, and he stayed back there with all the bronze. Then there's Julius Caesar, who once said, let me make the salad. This coach was in the locker room and it's halftime, and his team is losing horrible. He said, gentlemen, he says, I've been holding this off, but I really got to tell you, you've got to understand this. There's too much prejudice. There's too much color line. And he says, I want it stopped. He says, we can't work as a unit unless we eliminate all this right now. He said, I don't want to hear the word nigger. I don't want to hear the word spook. I don't want to hear the word honky or whitey or Polak or Mexican. He says, from now on, you're all green. There is no color barrier. He says, now, he says, all you green guys over here and all you dark green guys over there. This sheep herder came down out of the hills, and he was learning how to drive, and the instructor said, can you make a U-turn? He says, shit, I can make their eyes pop out. Earlier this year, there was a group of us comedians. We were up in Vegas, and we were having lunch together, and we were discussing the various ways of lousing up the English language. And of course, right away, come up Pig Latin, you know, itne, atne, and the inevitable story about the girl that complained to the police that she lost her pay and her aunt's pay. And then the carnival language, Khazarni, which is constructed by putting an IZ sound in the middle of a stressed vowel. So that my name, instead of being Joe, would be Jizzo. And they say things like, I'm on my way to the Jizal, which is the chow top or the dining tent, and none of the marks can read that. And all carnival people use that language. And then we were talking about poppin' peas. Poppin' peas, that's like Piddly was a pet python, and he lived in a pit with his mother Perth. And one day, Piddly learned to hiss. And all day long he would be hissing in his mother's pit. And his mother, Perth, got tired of him hissing in her pit. And she says, Piddly, if you're going to hiss in the pit, you go outside and hiss. So Piddly went outside and he was hissing all over the neighborhood. And he even went next door to Python Potts' pit. And Python Pot got perturbed, and she didn't want him hissing in her pit. She says, Piddly, if you got to hiss, you go home and hiss in your own pit. So Piddly started crying, and he went home to his mother, and he says, Mother, Mrs. Potts won't let me hiss in her pit. And Perth got all upset. She says, I remember Mrs. Potts when she didn't have a pit to hiss in. And while we were talking, this one cat came up with a language that was developed by some college students, and it's called the alfalfa language. And it's constructed by putting an LF sound in front of it, in the middle of a stress valve, so that my name instead of Joe would be Jowfo. And I'm style fanning here, small folk in the sill figure L fit, and having a qualified drill think. And now that you can understand the construction of this language, you know what would happen when this cat started in on a brief lecture on duck hunting. And he began by saying, one fowl fang delphi, I just fight it to go whole funny for dolphin. So I hill fits my whole force up to the wild faggot, and I low footed my gold fun and this whole ball fucking of alfalfa hill fishing. And I row forward, you know, gill fitty alfalfa, gill fitty alfalfa, gill fitty alfalfa. And Pearl Philly cell phone, we came to this huge low fake that was all phoned by a fall farmer friend of mine. So I rode forward down to the low fake, and I low footed the gold fun and this whole ball fucking of alfalfa mill fishing into the row fold boat, and I row forward. Go splow fast, splow fast. And Pearl Philly cell phone will come up to this dull fuck blow fine. So I growl out the off anchor, and I self at down found, and I well faded. And I well faded. And Pearl Fitty Sulfoon out in the dill fistons came a whole flock of dolphins. Qualfac. So I rail phased my gold fund, and I squeal fused the trill figures, and clill fit. And I said, shill fit, I forgot to low for the gold fund. So I reel feet down into this whole ball fucking of alfalfa mill fishing, and I low-footed the gold fun, and I well faded. And And Pearl Fitty Soul Foon, away out in the dill fishing, came an owl footer. Big flock of doll fuck. Wow fact. So I rail faced my gold fun, and I squeal fused the trill figure. And bow fang. I said, so fun of a bill fitch, I mill fish. Good. Would you like to hear an Israeli number? Jerusalem 89756. No, I really will sing. I will. It's a brand new song, and I want you to hear it, and it's just for you. Just listen. You know, I saw that apple hanging on the tree. It said, why don't you reach up and take a bite of me? For I am sweet and juicy fruit, the best you ever ate. So I took a great big bite, and I'm crying about it yet. And then there was a cherry. It was clinging on a vine, and it told me it was sweeter than apple cider wine. So I up and grabbed it. It was so ripe and red. I've been sorry ever since. I should have stood in bed. Can't believe I ate that whole thing, and I don't believe I'd do it again. It got stuck in my throat, and I thought that I would choke. I can't believe I ate that whole thing. My baby says she loves me, but now and then we fight.
And every time it happens, I'm always in the right. And when I say I'm going to leave, ain't coming back no more, she says I'll eat those words before I close the door. And when I'm dreaming about that apple tree and all those juicy cherries that got away from me, I start talking in my sleep about those gals down south. My baby wakes me, and I got my foot in my mouth. I can't believe I ate that whole thing, and I don't believe I'd do it again. It got stuck in my throat, and I thought that I would choke. Can't believe I ate that whole thing. I can't believe I ate that whole thing. I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
Thank you very, very much. Brooke Brown. And this is really not liquor, and it's not booze. Would you turn off Super Sock up there, please? Well, I saw 4 toupees go up that thing. And why did they do it? Why did they do it? It's 30 degrees outside in the dead of winter, and you come in here and it's 90 degrees. 90. So everybody takes their coat off, and then they have about 4 or 5 drinks, and they got to go to the John, right? And they got tile floors, tile walls, and it's 40 below zero in there. And I defy you to do anything in there. A while ago, a gal come out on the telephone booth. She says, "How do you flush it?" You know, I was here one night, and I was sitting at the end of the bar. Well, I wasn't really sitting, I was slumped over the bar. Well, I wasn't really slumped over the bar, I was flat on my ass. And at 2 o'clock, Hank, the bartender, who's also the local paramedic, he steered me to my car, and I got a brand new car, right? And somebody stole the front seat. And I'm out there in the parking lot all alone. So I got to go in and kneel down on the floorboards. And with one hand I'm using the pedals, and the other hand I'm steering, you know. And I was drunk enough I could do it. And I get almost all the way home, and you know you can never find one when you want one, right? He comes right up to the door. He says, "How come you passed the red light?" Don't they know when you're smashed, everything looks green? I got a buddy of mine that passed the red light, and for what it cost him, he could have gone inside. And I know they're getting younger, or either that or I'm getting older. But this cop had to be 14 years old with pimples. And then he asks you the question, like he comes up to the door and he says, "Have you been drinking, sir?" How in the hell does he think I got there? So he opened the door and he saw me dealing down on the floorboard. He said, "Well, if it ain't Toulouse-Lautrec." I said, "No, officer, you don't understand." I said, "Somebody stole my seat." And he says, "Hey, Charlie, we got a real beauty this time." But the guys were young and they were nice, and I was a block from home. So all they did was cite me for reckless driving and driving in a fetal position. So, you know, when you go home, you're smashed out of your mind, right? And you got the key out, and you go to reach for the door, and it opens. And there's Godzilla. She says, "What's your idea coming home half drunk?" And I says, "Because I ran out of money." And have you ever noticed when you're drunk and you're brave, they don't argue with you. They wait till the morning when you're hungover and sick. And you're in the bathroom on your knees with your head over the toilet bowl. Then they start. They say, "Well, did Casanova have a nice time last night? Does your itty bitty little head hurt? You drunk. You sot. You are a wino." Then comes the hard questions. Like, how did you get the car into the kitchen? So that's easy. I got to the dining room and turned left. Then coming down the hall, I heard the pitter-patter of little feet. My mother-in-law was a midget. She said, "I told you not to marry that drunken bum." And you know, you women really have an advantage over us. This is when you really pour it to us. And you don't give up. Nag, 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 right? True. The other night I was in here and I was dancing over there with a girl. You won't believe this. She was big and tall, but that wasn't it. She was really short when I started dancing with her. But she had a wooden leg and I was turning her the wrong way. I was unscrewing her. And she reeked with perfume. Boy, woo! You heard of taboo? This was sabu. She smelled like an elephant. I says, "You been dancing, honey?" She says, "Why?" I said, "You smell tired." I said, "One good hot day and you'd spoil." I think this gal was a skin diver for Roto-Rooter. This 90-year-old man, he went to the cat house, and he knocked on the door, and the madam opened the door, and she says, "Yeah, what do you want?" He says, "I want a bride." She says, "Look, Pop, you're all through." He says, "Good, how much owe you?" This is not booze. What did I say before?
It's not booze.
It's not booze. It's really not. It's prune juice and toilet water. To John Collins. Yeah. It's prune juice and holy water. It's a religious movement. You know, I work with a lot of audiences, and you people are really, really delightful. And I like to do something tonight. Okay, stud, get over here. You got that cord, you know. You should have had that removed when you were born. I want you over here so you can sing a song. You gotta sing, you know. Where you working next week, kid? You don't know what I'm going to do, but we're going to do it anyway. Did you ever go to a big nightclub and you hear a big singer and he's singing a song and you look at him and you say, "Gee, that's really great." Have you ever stopped to think what he's thinking when he's singing that song? Tonight we're going to show you what he thinks. Sing it big, kid.
To dream the impossible dream.
Boy, what a motley looking audience.
To fight the unbeatable foe.
Speaking of fights, you hope they're friendly.
To bear with unbearable sorrow.
Oh, wow, look at that gal in the big bazooms there.
To run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightable wrong.
I think I'll wink at her.
To love pure and chaste from afar.
She didn't wink back. I think I'll wink back at her.
To try when your arms are too weary.
Now he's winking back.
To reach the unreachable star. This is my quest.
That's his quest. What kind of stop is that?
To follow that star, no matter how hopeless.
Hopeless. I shouldn't have wore these jockey shorts tonight.
No matter how far, to fight for the right.
I should have gone to the bathroom before I got up here.
Without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest.
Too late now. Yeah.
That my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest.
In Forest Lawn. That's what they do. You do a do-it-yourself funeral. They wet the ground and you sink in by yourself.
And the world will be better for this.
I'll do the jokes.
Now one man, scorned and covered with scars,
He met the Mac knife.
still strove with his last ounce of courage
Courage, look.
to reach
I'll get your Richie navel organ over there. Now I'd like to sing for you. Don't laugh. Please. Don't laugh during my song. And don't dance during my act. This is a little song that's called Come On Down to Gitchy Goomy and Shakatumi. You got a dirty laugh, lady. This little folk song was written by an old folk. It's entitled I'm in a Nude for Love. That's what we ought to do. We ought to all take our clothes off and laugh at each other. This Jewish refugee came to this country. It's his first day in this country. Never before seen a man of the cloth. And he's walking down the street, and the first guy he sees is a Catholic priest. And he went right up to him and said, "Hey, mister," he says, "you got your collar on backwards." He said, "No." He said, "You don't understand." He said, "I'm a father." He says, "Big deal, I'm a father too. I got 12 kids, I don't wear my collar back." He says, "No." He says, "You don't understand." He says, "I'm a father of hundreds." He said, "Then you should wear your pants on back." I got a neighbor, this neighbor, he and I are always arguing and fighting. And every time we see each other, we start arguing. And when I'm leaving to come here tonight, who's in the driveway but my dingy neighbor? Right away he comes up to me and he starts an argument. He says, I think the Watergate thing is a mess. I said, "Yeah, it's easy for you to say." I mean, not that I'm against people that stutter. I'm not. My best friend stutters, you know, but he drives me crazy. I mean, he'll say things like, "Did you see it?" And hell, by the time you look, it's gone. So we were walking along one day, and he said, "Did you see it?" And I said, "Yeah, I saw it." He said, "Well, then, how come you stepped in it?" And I try to get my hippie son some culture, so I sent him to Europe for 3 months. And he sent a wire back, said, "Dear Dad, have a wonderful time in Europe. I'm living with a French count. Send $500. So I sent a wire back. I said, "When you learn how to spell, I'll send the 500. I'd like to do some poems for you tonight. I want to do a poem, I want to do a prayer, and I want to do a toast. Can I have some poem music there, Stud? Beautiful. A bee is a very busy soul. He has no time for birth control. And that is why in times like these, there are so many sons of bees. And now I'd like to do Bingo's prayer for you. This is Bingo's prayer. Not funeral music, just need prayer music. When the Lord made little boys. He made them out of string. And with what he had left over, he made a little thing. And when the Lord made little girls, he made them out of lace. And with what he had left over, he made a little place. Thank you, Lord. And now a toast. Well, give me some music. Give me some toast music. Here's to Eve, the mother of our race, who always wore the fig leaf in the proper place. And here's to Adam, the father of us all, who was Johnny on the spot when the leaves began to fall. Would you like to hear this rally number? Yeah. Jerusalem 81975. No, I'll sing it for you, I really will. I'd like to sing a song for you tonight that was written by Arlene Buckner, especially for me, and I'd like to sing it especially for you.
The kind of people I like are people like you. I like the way you always smile. People like you aren't easy to find, but you make life worthwhile. Everyday folks with everyday habits and everyday ups and downs try to get to me, make me feel gloomy. They never learn to clown. But then there's people I like people like you, who always have a glad hello. People like you aren't easy to find, but you're the kind I'd like to know. When things get me down, I'll try to remember life's problems can only be small. As long as people like you, like people like me, it's not a bad world after all. When things get me down, I'll try to remember life's problems can only be small. As long as people like you, like people like me, it's not a bad world after all. When things get me down, I'll try to remember life's problems can only be small. As long as people like you, like people like me, it's not a bad world after all. It's not a bad world after all. It's not really all that bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Bingo. Let's have another big hand. What do you say?